Let's bring in former SEC Attorney Scott Kimpel for more on the story. Scott, great to have you with us. Here's the number one question that I have. Is any data at the SEC, particularly in the EDGAR databases, is it encrypted at all?
There are various security systems that are put in place, but you're dealing with a system that really was built in the 1980s and has been updated through patches over the last 3 decades. So certainly a sophisticated threat actor, be it a nation state or organized crime or some other person with those sort of inclinations, could very easily find ways into the system, and that seems to be what did happen here.
You're an attorney who advises companies in your present-day life. What would you tell a company? I mean, are they safe in filing their 8Ks or any of their sensitive filings with the SEC at this point via EDGAR? I mean, is there the risk still that that data could be breached?
There is always that risk. And the problem is there's no special relief given to companies against filing in this kind of situation, so they have to continue to make the filings on time. I think one of the things that we'll begin suggesting to companies is to make the filings at the last possible second. In other words, the test filing system that is done, those test filings are often made hours, if not days, before certain filings are due, and it's really just a way to ping the system and make sure that the filing will be accepted by the government. If you would do a test filing at night, for example, before you file the next morning, that data sits on the SEC server for 12, 14 hours, giving a cyber criminal, as the ones identified here, plenty of time to play with whatever information they're able to obtain. So I think the advice now is don't do those test filings until the last possible second and just minutes before you're going to make the actual filing.
Scott, let's say a hacker gets in, gets material non-public information and trades on that information, illegally has insider trading.
Correct.
Who's liable?
Well, certainly it's not the companies here. It's going to be the criminals themselves who made these incursions.
But does the government bear any responsibility for negligence for creating a system that is fairly, apparently, easily hackable?
This is the challenge that businesses across America face, is that they're constantly dealing with these threats. They're constantly making investments in data security systems. The government has to do the same thing. The challenge is the budgetary dollars. When I was at the SEC, one of the talking points on cybersecurity was that the IT budget for Goldman Sachs was larger than the entire budget for the SEC as an agency altogether. So there's finite dollars that are able to be spent here. Another issue is the SEC, like most government agencies, is subject to the appropriations process, which limits their ability to spend beyond 1-year time horizons. Most of the sort of security systems that you need have to be developed over time with vendors or other third parties who help you develop these things. And it's hard to do these on a 1-year-by-year basis. Ironically, one of the things that Dodd-Frank did was it created a reserve fund for the SEC. So it had some budget dollars to spend across years. And of course, that reserve fund has come under criticism as potentially being used as a slush fund for the agency. There's not a lot of support for that idea.
Right.
But the Financial Choice Act, which has been bouncing around Congress the last few months, includes a provision that would repeal the reserve fund provision. So that's a provision that hopefully was intended to address these kinds of situations, to at least give the SEC the ability to spend the kind of money they need to across 1-year cycles to develop the security systems they need. And we'll see where that bill goes.
Right. We'll be watching. Scott, thank you. Scott Kimpel.